You had the Lagos colony,
Yes.
which was largely Lagos and today's Western Nigeria. And then you had the Protectorate of Northern Nigeria. Now, in the let's forget the other two briefly. The Protectorate of Southern Nigeria had six provinces. The six provinces were the Benin province, the Warri province, the Onitsha province, the Owerri province, the Ogoja province, and the Calabar province. Now, Abo was a part of the Benin province, but the rest of what is now the Anioma region in today's Delta states were part of the Onitsha province. And you can even see one bit of historical evidence for that is Catholic records. You find that when the Catholics set up their diocese, a lot of the priests who basically spread the gospel of Jesus Christ in the Ekumeku areas were from the Onitsha and Ojoto area. Now, why is that important? Because the last area of resistance to British rule, not just in Igbo land, but in the whole of Nigeria, was actually what is now called Anioma. The Ekumeku guerrilla movements harassed the British right up until about 1917 before they were finally brought under control. And because these areas were in what was designated the Onitsha province, they were essentially ruled from Onitsha. Then, after the Aba women's thing, I don't like calling the Aba women's riots, because calling it riots was what the British decided to do in order to delegitimize what was actually a very valid protest about unfair taxation. After the Aba women's affair, in order to for military convenience, because the two major garrisons in what was the Protectorate of Southern Nigeria were in Benin and Calabar. So you look at distance. Benin is much closer to Asaba than Calabar. Benin is entirely not. So in order to keep them to here for administrative convenience, the areas around Asaba were excised from the Onitsha province and put in the Benin province. And the British did all of those rearrangements along the length of the River Niger and the River Benue. So, as an example, Abo in today's Delta states used to be part of the Owerri province. It was removed and put in the Warri province. While on the other hand, further south, Yenagoa, Saibama, Kaima, which are in today's Bayelsa states, used to be part of the Owerri province, but happened to be on the east of the River Niger. So they were moved away from the Owerri province, from the Owerri province, and included in the Warri province. So you see that the very first maps of Nigeria, the British tried to administer the new country along ethno-linguistic lines. But as time went on, they began to make divisions more along geographical features. So the point of all this is that before, and you can see it historically, before the Anioma people used to face the East. So again, if you look at, let's go back, because 1929 was a very pivotal year. A list of the people who were killed in the Aba women's affair, you will find that there were some Asaba women who were killed. So it's when you're studying history, historical records, you have to ask questions.
How come you had Asaba women there, or were they living in Aba, or
which is
were
precisely the precisely the question I'm about to answer.
Okay.
It was easier for Asaba people back then to face the East if they wanted to move, because they spoke the same language. They need to learn an entirely new language in order to settle them. Now, prior to 1929, the Nigerian police, or what became the Nigerian police, was actually 4 distinct forces, which were divided again into those regions. So the Niger Delta Constabulary was the one that was specifically charged with keeping the peace in the old protectorate of southern Nigeria, which again, for the sake of the records, is today's southeast and south-south and the Akoko area of today's Ondo State. The Niger Delta Constabulary was the one who was charged with keeping the peace there. They were ordered by the colonial authorities to kill or to put down the Aba women's protests violently. But they did not. They refused to, because these were their women, as it were. So what the colonialists did was to go to Lagos and bring some policemen from the Yoruba Constabulary. Those ones, because they were not the same people as the women in the Aba area, they didn't have a problem with shooting. So again, if you look at the list of all those who died, you'll find that the 50 women who were killed were Igbo women. That list includes their hometowns. While on the other hand, the one policeman who was killed was a Yoruba man. He was brought from outside. So the lesson that the British learned was that the best way to administer this colony and keep them pacified was divide and rule. So the British merged the security forces into one big Nigerian police force and began a policy of posting policemen outside their regions of origin. Because
that still persists today. That's why you will see
that still persists.
That's why you come into Asaba, you come into Anambra or where you see your commissioner of police is from Castina. He doesn't speak your local language. He doesn't. That's where the whole nonsense started from.
That's where it started from. It started in 1929. One of the big problems of our so-called independence in Nigeria was that when the British left, the political establishments in Nigeria did not change anything. They simply substituted white-skinned rulers with black-skinned rulers. That's all they did. But the underlying realities of why things happened the way they happened in Nigeria were not changed.
And actually, because they didn't, in fairness to them, maybe they didn't. They thought it was just governance. They didn't understand.
They didn't understand. Yeah, they did not understand the thinking behind those things. Yes. So I'll give another example. I mean, because this is something that a lot of Igbo people do not understand. Most of the very brutal actions that happened against our people during the war were carried out by people from what is today's Middle Belt. The question is why? And the answer is that in 1964, shortly after the creation of the Midwest from the Western region, the minorities in the Northern region wanted their own region created. The Northern People's Congress, led by the Sadauna of Sokoto, Ahmadu Bello, refused to grant that request. And the central government, led by Ahmadu Bello's Laki Tafawa Balewa, deployed the army into the Middle Belt areas to brutally suppress those agitations.
That's correct.
The army units that were deployed were led by people named Timothy Omutuego, Christian Anuforo, John Opieno. They were Igbo boys who brutally suppressed the civil riots on behalf of the North. So 3 years later, when we were trying to leave Nigeria, for the Middle Belters, it was time for revenge. It's a historical context they were brutal about it. It's a historical context that we need to keep in mind.
Honestly, I mean, I think we need to reinforce and reemphasize that, because if you I mean, saying it makes a lot of sense, because if you look at the thinking and the madness that happened with the Saba massacre, you could actually link it to that to understand what level of aggression and thinking and wickedness could lead someone to committing such atrocity. And those that were behind it were never questioned, neither were they prosecuted. Up to today that we speak, it's an injustice that is still crying for justice to be done.
Yes, and the Asaba massacre is not the only. It's not the only thing in Nigerian history that's crying for justice to be done. Nigeria is full of. Nigeria is full of a lot of uh, incidents of violence to the people, where the perpetrators have not been punished, and as not only have they not been punished, they have been rewarded. And as long as you have those things happening on a very regular basis, where the perpetrators are not only are they not punished, but they're actively rewarded, then it only reinforces itself. Think about river states as an example. People who have killed people who have committed crimes, murder, have been rewarded in many cases with positions in the River State House of Assembly. What do you think young people in that state will do? It reinforces in their minds the concept that this is the way to go, this is how to live life, and they will do it. Same thing in Lagos, the MC Oluomos. Here was a man who was stabbed at some gathering, and he was in hospital. The hospital had police guards, and then a few weeks later, when he was discharged from hospital, they held his coming out party in a school compound on a school day. It was a Thursday, on a school day during lunch break, with all the children watching. What do you think those children will imbibe as the lesson of that? And the funny thing is, these things are happening in different parts of Nigeria now. It's sort of like a repeat of what happened in the Southeast after the war.
Exactly.
Because of the 20 pounds thing, the people who were quickest to rise to their feet after all of that nonsense were people who had no morals, people who were not the best behaved people, and they were the ones who society began to look up to. So for a very long time, for about 20 to 30 years after the war, Igbo society became a society of anything goes, permissiveness. It's beginning to correct. That's one place where we are ahead of the rest of Nigeria. It's beginning to correct in Igbo society. But we should not fall into the trap. It's one trap I see Igbo people fall into a lot of times. We should not fall into the trap of thinking that we are better than the rest of Nigeria.